What's up, gamers? How the heck are you? Welcome to another grounded video. My name is Epic Pins, and if you have been having issues with that beautiful sweet creature, the infected broodmother, well, I'm here to try to make it just a little bit easier for you if I can. So how I'm going to break this video up is I'm going to talk about strategies in each phase, and I'm gonna try not to drag it out because that's annoying, but we learned so much about the broodmother now, so it's a little bit easier to talk through each phase. So I'm going to talk to you through each phase, different strategies for it, and then I'm going to go on to talk about the two builds that have been working the best. There are some other builds that work, but these ones have worked the best for me. So if you guys want to skip, I'll timestamp everything, so you're more than welcome to just get to whatever you want to know. We'll go from there. So let's get to it. All right, let's quickly go through each phase of the infected broodmother. So phase 1 is basically the hedge broodmother, but with a little faster attacks. So she has the 3-hit combo, she has a 5-hit combo, a basic attack, a heavy attack where she like roars and then lunges forward at you, and then she has a backwards dodge that can hit you as she jumps backwards. So during this phase, just watch for each attack. They're not overly fast. The only one that can kind of trip you up sometimes would be the 5-hit combo, because maybe you're expecting the 3-hit combo or you're expecting a basic attack, because sometimes they kind of look a little similar. But for the most part, these are pretty slowish, so you should be able to at least block them if you can't perfect block them. Your goal for the most of this fight is to try to weave in as many perfect blocks as you can, because they won't add any value to your block gauge, and you don't want the block gauge to basically fill up, because if it does, it's going to cause a stun, leaving you open for attack. Now, a little trick that you can have during this, if you do notice that your block gauge is about to be full and it gives you a little warning flash that happens, the next attack will cause you to be stunned. So try to time it if you can. Like if you're really good at hitting or like perfect blocking the 3-hit combos, if a 3-hit combo comes along and you know you're about to lose out on your stun, perfect block the first 2 and then just normal block the last hit, so that you get stunned on the last hit, giving you time to like recuperate from the stun, so that you don't have she doesn't have a chance to attack you. This is usually the better idea if you can, or if you can do it like on the jump back, if you can just block the jump back so you get stunned, that way she's far away from you, so she's not going to hit you. So this works in any of the phases. If you notice that your block gauge is about to be stunned, then try to manipulate her attacks so that you end up getting stunned in a spot where she's not going to take advantage of it and get a bunch of damage in on you. So once you've killed her in this phase, you're going to move on to phase 2. This is when things get a little tricky. So if you don't have the fungal growth trinket, which is the one that negates 75% of explosion damage, then you're going to have to stay away from the bombs that drop from the air. It's one of her new attacks in this phase. So when she screams, the fungal bombs are going to drop from the ceiling and land on the floor, but they land in the same spot every single time. So there are a few spots throughout the whole arena that you can stand where you won't get hit by any explosion. So I choose this back corner over here because it's the most room for me to maneuver a little bit and not get hit by any of the explosions. So staying in this area, if you don't have the fungal growth, you have the fungal growth trinket, you have it on, then you don't really need to worry about this too much, because you won't take a ton of damage from the explosions. But if you don't have that trinket, this is a very serious attack that could pretty much cripple you if you're not paying attention, because a bunch of these explosions can go off at once around you and almost just kill you instantly. So staying away from them is your best bet. Now, while you're over in this corner, you're going to need to watch out for her jump attack, a side lunge, which is where she jumps to the side and then comes in for a bite. She'll do a move where she lays an egg down on the ground that kind of looks like an orb weaver egg, but it's glowing and it's going to explode within 8 seconds after she lays it. Now, every explosion in this phase will heal her if she gets hit by the explosion, so she's going to use these to try to heal back up. Basically, the way to negate this is just to try to keep damage up as much as possible so that she's always at a deficit, even if she heals some. So trying to kite her away from the explosions is what I do. So I try to get her to an area where the explosions aren't, so she doesn't get hit by them when they go off, especially the egg, because it does do the most. Now, you can destroy this egg. In my world, every time I destroyed it, it still exploded anyway, so I just decided there's no point. She does a jump back, and this has an alteration in this phase where with the jump back now leaves a dust cloud that causes a movement debuff on you. So if you're in it, it will cause you to be a little slower. I didn't care that much because I wasn't moving around a ton anyway. The dust cloud can be pretty annoying because it will leave a cloud in front of you and it's very hard to see through this thing. So I do kind of hope they dial that back a little bit, but for right now you can't really see through it, so it is pretty difficult. So just kind of hold block through this, because she's going to hit you with some attack at some point really quickly. She usually tries to do a jump attack most of the time, or if she's jumped back, she could let out a scream too, and screams can hit you from across the arena, so be ready for that, because you want to try to take as little damage as possible. Do keep in mind though, during this phase there are no hit combos. Every attack is just a single attack, so you don't have to worry about any combo attacks during this phase. That's why it's not too bad, because every attack is just a single attack that you have to block, so that's all you're worrying about. No hit combos. Now once you've killed her and you're moving on to the third phase, this is where things get a little tricky. She's going to take all the moves that she did from phases 1 and 2 and basically use them in 3, but they're all going to be a lot faster. So she's going to do the scream attack that causes the explosions to drop from the sky, but that's also going to cause gnats to spawn in the area. They never bothered me that much, but they do have the chance to knock weapons out of your hand. So just watch. They just act like normal infected gnats, so just watch out for them. They are up at the top of the arena, but they stayed up there for me. They never really came down that much. She has a faster side lunge. She's going to jump even further and lunge even faster back at you, so you just really need to be prepared for it. As soon as she lunges, basically get your block ready, because she's going to hit you. Instead of doing 3 hit combos, she's only going to do 5 hit combos, but they're going to be various speeds. So they're always going to be 5 hits, but they're going to be either a slow one, like a medium style one, and then a really fast one. The really fast one is almost impossible to perfect block every hit, so just be ready to hold the block, maybe perfect block the first one, hold for the rest of them, and then the last one perfect block it, because she always rears back a little bit on the last one to come back in for a final attack, so you can kind of get a little bit of a window to perfect block it. She's going to have the backwards jump, as always, leaving the dust cloud. Annoying, but in this one she's going to have a unique ability called Spore Shot. Just like the infected wolf spider, she's going to shoot a butt bomb at you, and that is probably the most annoying one of all, especially if you don't have the fungal growth trinket, because the Spore Shot is directly aimed at you, so sometimes it's really hard to dodge. But if you see her about to fire it, move towards her and step to the side just slightly, it will launch past you. Just keep in mind that it is behind you and will explode if you get close to it. So if you're standing next to a wall and she hits the wall behind you and you're still close to that, it will explode anyway. So try your best to just dodge it if you can, because it's really hard otherwise to do anything about it. So just try to keep the attacks on her as best you can. She generally doesn't do the Spore Shot if you're up in her face as much as possible. So I did find that to be the case in my playthroughs, but I don't know that that's an actual thing just yet. So just if it ends up working for you, great. If it doesn't, then sorry. So overall, phases 1 and 2 aren't particularly difficult when you just understand what she's doing in each phase and how to just ready yourself for each attack that you see coming. Phase 3, now on the other hand, is quite difficult just because she is super fast and it's really hard to hit perfect blocks. If you're not weaving in perfect blocks, occasionally your block gauge is going to fill up and you're going to get stunned. And if you get stunned in phase 3, it's almost impossible not to take a ton of damage, and you might even die just off of one attack, just off of one combo attack. And you might die just off of one combo attack that she does. It's particularly difficult because she does inflict things like venom, and she has a attack debuff, she has a healing debuff. So all of these things will start hitting on you, and they stack during the fight. So they will last the entire fight if you're not paying attention. So if you're going to notice that every time you get hit, you're going to see a healing debuff at the bottom of your screen. That's going to continue to stack to a point where you no longer can heal from anything you have, except for a couple mutations. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right, so let's go over the builds. So I'm just going to go over the things that I have, and then we'll go over why I have them. So for the build that I used the most and the one that I have killed her with the most, I'm just going to call this my cut crit build. So you're going to use Toenail Schmecter, Fire Ant Shield, Suspicious Ice Cap, Assassin Mask, Assassin Chestplate, and Assassin Greaves for the full assassin set. So you're gonna get fresh attack because you're adding in the Suspicious Ice Caps. It added 15 extra fresh damage to her, which she's weak to. If I had fungal growth, I would obviously have that trinket on. You get block corrosion from the Fire Ant Shield. This does a debuff to her defenses, so I just find this one better than the Ladybird Shield. You get block strength from the shield. So critical chain's a big one for this one because you're going to chain your critical attacks all together. This has a chance to increase criticals as you go, which is amazing. Crit stun, you're not really going to have a ton of stun in this because her stun meter is just so high. You're using this build more for bleed and crit. Light armor is really good because you don't want your stamina to run out, because you're using stamina to block and to attack, and having it run out is a big problem. Cutman also with the bleed. So as for mutations for this one, obviously I always have coup de grace on because I want the critical hit chance, and I have the 5% because I have phase 2. So I have the 5% going, and I think critical chance is better than most people think it is, but I like it because when it does hit, it's really nice. And with the critical chance, or with the critical chain happening, you have a higher chance of it happening as well. Blade Master, because I wanted the exhaustion timer removed, and I just, lowers the damage deal or enemies deal, which is great. If you can lower how much damage she's doing to you, just makes it all around better. Parry Master, because I'm not a great blocker. I'm okay. I can have good runs where my blocks are really good, but I also have good runs where they're really bad. So I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to to perfect block as much as possible. Yoked Blows, because I am going to be doing critical damage. And if I'm going to be doing critical damage, then why not have Yoked Blows on? Now, I understand that Yoked Blows isn't super easy to get because you have to get a lot of the gold creature cards in order to even have this fully maxed out. So if you don't have that, I understand. You can switch this out with something else if you want to. Maybe Mom Jeans, have a little minion build going on, or the Mysterious Stranger to negate some damage to him and take it away from you for a little bit. I threw on Corporate Kickback because Corporate Kickback in this particular instant ignores the healing debuff she gives you. So every time this procs, and for me it was proccing quite often, especially if you can hit multiple perfect blocks in a row. Every time it uses it, you can instantly heal yourself back up without using any heals. If you don't think this works for you, you can switch this out with something else. Next build that I use I don't recommend you using it unless you're really good at blocking. So it's going to be the Little Fist build, but this Little Fist build requires you to basically not take damage whatsoever. So how Little Fist works is it builds up a multiplier as you're attacking. Little Fist will do a 2%, if you have it fully leveled up, will do a 2% damage increase that stacks unlimited until you take damage. So as you're fighting her, as long as you're not taking damage, it's stacking each hit. So if it's 2%, and let's say you do 100 hits in a row without taking any damage, now you're doing 200% damage on top of your base damage with Little Fist. Now that may not seem, it doesn't sound like it seems like a lot because Little Fist doesn't have a ton of initial damage, but once you start stacking that and you start getting, let's say, like 140 hits in a row, it's a lot, and especially if you have it Little Fist powered all the way up, because you're getting 2 hits for every 1 hit. So for every time you hit her, it's hitting twice. So it's a significant amount of damage, especially if you can not get hit. But that's the kicker, you can't get hit. Now I threw on Assassin Armor because I wanted to keep the armor light, but also still apply the crit and still apply cut just if it happened. I think it works out really well in this scenario. But you can switch this around if you want to. This is up to you. I would just recommend, because you're going to be doing so many attacks, do not do a heavy armor. Heavy armor you're going to run out of stamina pretty quickly. As for your mutations, you obviously need Little Fist. That's the biggest one here. I threw crit on as well. I threw Chopper on to do a buff that removes a stamina regen delay so that your stamina can come back really quickly. I also chose to get rid of the exhaustion timer by throwing on Blade Master. Once again, you need to I think Parry Master is honestly a must. Unless you use Koi Armor or something like that, Parry Master is a must in this build because you need to land your blocks. The first build that I show you, the one that I use more consistently, is because you don't have to land perfect blocks every time. You can get hit, you can take damage and still be in the fight. But if you're in phase 3 and you take damage and you've lost that, let's say I usually went in with like 150 stacked attack buff I had. If you lost that in round 3, it's really hard to come back from it. All right, guys, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you liked the video, please hit that like button below. It really does help with the algorithm. If you guys end up liking me at all, consider subscribing to the channel. Go and watch one of my other videos, and if you still liked me, then consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really love to have you. I love survival games. Grounded is probably one of my favorite games. This infected Broodmother is absolutely insane. So like I said, guys, blocking is the key for this. So try to get your blocks down if you can, and use the outline that I gave you for each strategy in the phases, because like I said, the phases aren't too difficult if you know what's happening, except phase 3. That one's pretty difficult. But if you know what's happening in phase 1 and 2, you can get to phase 3 with honestly taking no damage at all. So use it, use the strategy, use it and abuse it. As always, if I find out an easier way to do this, I will gladly show you guys 100%. I will always show you how to cheese every single creature in this game. That's my favorite thing to do. I love taking down these bosses with ease, with no problem whatsoever. So thank you guys once again. As always, I'll gladly catch you in the next one. Peace out.